website. Over 2 million people have received their Social Security Fairness Act back payments, retroactive payments. So we're looking at $14 billion, over $14 billion. So we're going to go over that today. And we're going to talk about those checks. And we're going to talk about the million or so people that haven't received those checks yet, what to do, when's the deadline for contacting Social Security, and what about all those people that don't even know they're entitled to those checks? So we're going to talk about all of that today. And then also the relevance to that in terms of Medicare, and for the vast majority of people that are unfortunately not part of that check cutting cadre that the government is doing right now, that are not getting that $6,000 back pay retroactive at the average. We're going to talk about why you actually should receive something. And anyway, so we'll talk about all that today. It's a tragedy that the other 97% doesn't receive it. I've talked about that about a million times, but if you're new to my channel, we'll talk about it again. And this is also a live Q&A. It looks like I've already got tons of questions. Some people have got questions about they received a check, or they wonder if it's correct amount. They haven't received a check. When are they going to get the check? Why was my money reduced or recalculated in the beginning? So we'll talk about all that today. So make sure if you got any questions, type them into the live Q&A. If you're watching this on a recording later and this is not a live Q&A, make sure you subscribe and like and share and all that kind of good stuff. And that way we can keep you updated on all the changes and all the tips, tricks, and secrets to make sure you're getting everything you are eligible, everything you paid in for. Okay, the Social Security Fairness Act. It was signed by President Biden just before he left office. And everybody, regular viewers, know I disagree with it. It was the original. So these are extra money going to workers, government employees, federal, some that started working for the federal government before the 1980s, city government, state government, county government, that paid into Social Security in previous employment or employment after, but the actual work they did for the government, for those government agencies, teachers, firefighters, police officers, whatever the case may be, at those particular jobs, they did not pay into Social Security. So as part of the early 1980 amendments, they passed this thing called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. It was a badly calculated law. The intentions were good, but it was calculated in a not a great way. Everybody agrees with that. But considering the information they had available in the early 1980s, they did their best. So in order to rectify that, President Biden passed the Social Security Fairness Act. President Trump supported it. It was passed by bipartisan support. Republicans, Democrats, they supported it. I didn't, because it was a terrible act. So the first windfall elimination GPO that was passed in the 1980s was bad. So they tried to fix it by making something terrible. Rather than actually fixing it, they've pretty much disadvantaged 97% out there. So you're probably one of those 97% out there that are not going to receive a check, that don't know what I'm talking about, that, as I did this video before, you're going to type in comments, Ed's a liar, I'm not getting any benefits, this is BS. I agree. I'm not a liar. This is a fact. Let me go ahead and show the website. This is a reality. You go to the Social Security website, SSA.gov, and you go to the Social Security Fairness Act, and it gives you an update of all the money that has gone out. So they paid out 81% of the money that's gone out. So we're looking at about 2.3 million people. And then if you click on the little state thing there, it takes you to how much went out to each state. So people living in Alaska, 14,000 people living in Alaska, they got 91 million. California, 321,000 people in California got it. Ohio, 270,000. So in Ohio, they got $1.4 billion of benefits there. People in American Samoa, people that are now moved outside the United States. These are American citizens that worked in, Social Security. So eventually someone is going to say, "Hey, how come we're giving money to foreign countries from Social Security?" No, these are U.S. citizens or green card holders or whatever the case may be. They're entitled to benefits. They paid into benefits. They paid into Social Security, but they were also police officers, or they were teachers, or they were firefighters, and now they've decided to move to France or the Philippines or wherever the case may be, and so 70,000 of those are now living overseas. So they're entitled to those benefits. So let's not start any conspiracy theories on, Social Security money, going to some foreign countries. So this is a reality. So for those people that believe that, oh, this is all BS and this is all clickbait and Ed's lying, that this money is not actually going out, go into SSA.gov and the money's going out. Okay, Social Security Fairness Act, it was signed by the president, supported bipartisan support. The money has gone out to over 2 million people, but there's about a little over 3 million people that are entitled to these benefits based on the Social Security Fairness Act. So they've got a lot more to go. When this first came out, when this was first signed by President Biden, I told everybody, based on my decades of working inside the Social Security Administration, it's going to take months and months and months to complete everything. However, a vast majority of those will be able to be issued relatively quickly, within 2 or 3 months. And guess what? Much to chagrin to the Texas teachers retirement system, who a bunch of them said I was just a fool and I'm an idiot because I was wrong. Guess what? I was right. I told y'all it's only going to take 2 or 3 months because most of these are easy calculations. You have a WEPT PIA on the system and they just unwep it. That's what they did. 80% of them, 70, 80% of them, easy, just unwep it or un-GPO. Easy. As I said, what happened, happened. So should get some apologies from Texas teachers. I went to high school in Texas, so my high school teachers, I don't know if any of they're the ones that started harassing me online. But anyway, see, I was right. So, okay, but the rest of them, the other 20%, the other million or so people, those are going to take a while. Those are going to take a while because there's a manual calculations, and the people that are going to be missing. Here's what we need to do. So again, I'll talk about why I'm against the Social Security Fairness Act for those people that don't know what I'm talking about. But those people that know what it is and they are under the Social Security Fairness Act and they're waiting for their check, they haven't received their check yet. Social Security says wait until the end of April to contact them, because the checks, the simple calculation, simple automation, as I said, it would happen relatively quickly. It did. And for the March checks, they always pay a month, in arrears. So the March checks come in April. So if you're born the first 10 days of the month, you get your check on the second Wednesday, second 10 days, third Wednesday, and all the rest of it. So a lot of people have gotten their checks. 2.2 million people have gotten their checks, but the other people are waiting. And Social Security says, wait until the end of April. If you haven't got your check by the end of April, then start calling Social Security. And for the other 90% of American people who are trying to contact Social Security in May, you're going to have to wait a lot longer, because these millions of people are going to be calling Social Security and say, hey, I didn't get my check, or I got my check, and what is this check? And I got my check, and are you sure it's correct? Am I getting overpaid? Am I getting underpaid? Shouldn't I get more than this? Is this too much? Whatever the case may be. Remember, these checks are retroactive. So you're going to get an increase, extra percentage that the other 97% aren't. You're going to get a higher percentage of what you paid into Social Security than other equal people. And that's why it's unfair. But anyway, and that's going forward. And it's going to deplete the Social Security Trust Fund, and everybody's going to suffer. But anyway, that was the law that was passed. I'm an old Marine Corps sergeant, and that's the law is passed. So that's the law is passed. So we have to go by the law that's passed. Anyway, doesn't mean we can't try to change it. So, and you're also going to get the retroactive payments. So that's going to go back to January. So that's where the $6,000 or so comes in. So I did the calculations. I did 2.2 million, 14 billion divided by 2, and it came up to an average check of about $6,633. Some people received less and some people receive more. It really depends on what your WEP PIA and what your GPO PIA was calculated as, and all the calculations on your PIA and your average index monthly earnings and all. So that's going to be a debate going forward. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to request a reconsideration that says, hey, I should have got more, I should have got less, or whatever the case may be. And that's going to happen, for forever, it seems like. So if you don't get your check, if you haven't gotten your check by the end of April, then call up Social Security. But here's the people out there that don't know anything about this and don't know if they're actually entitled to those benefits. So if you ever worked for a government agency, state, local, federal, the federal government didn't pay into Social Security employees. So in my office, we had about 100 employees when I left, and we had every single employee that worked for me at that time paid into Social Security. We had one that retired about a month earlier, and she started working at Social Security in the 1970s, so she was under the old system. But everybody that started Social Security in the 1980s and after pays into Social Security, politicians as well. But state, Texas teachers, there's some in Florida and Ohio and different places that do not pay into Social Security in those places, but they did pay into Social Security in other places. They're entitled to those benefits. They're just going to get a higher percentage than everybody else. But there are people that know they didn't work for the government, state, local, federal, city, whatever the case may be. But there are many people out there that are also entitled to spouse benefits based on the earnings of someone that worked for the government. And those are the people that Social Security doesn't know about, that are maybe eligible for that extra retroactive pay and extra money, that just might not ever get it if they don't know about it. So that's one of the reasons I want to do this video. So if you know anybody that work for the government, they have to take a claim. But if you know anybody that was married to anybody that worked for a government agency that didn't pay into Social Security, and you just might be entitled to benefits on that person's record. You weren't, maybe you went into Social Security, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and said, hey, I was married to this person, John or, Betty or whoever the case may be. Am I entitled to any benefits on that record? And they look at it and they say, okay, yeah, you met the 10 years or you were married to the correct amount and everything like that, but there's no more money there because his or her benefit has to be twice yours. Or if they're deceased, they have to be more than yours. And at that time, because their benefit amount was recalculated because of the WEP and the GPO law, which was enacted at that time, which was in effect at that time, you weren't entitled to any benefits because your spouse, ex-spouse, deceased spouse benefits were low. But now, because of the Social Security Fairness Act, their benefit amount is now higher. So maybe you might be, or someone that might be entitled to those benefits. So please like and share and subscribe and think about the person down the street and say, hey, I know this little old lady. She was married to someone that worked for the local, police department or something like that. I wonder if she's someone that might be entitled to benefits on that. So let's reach out there, and a lot of people could definitely use that extra money. So let's reach out there and see what we can do to get those people that are going to inevitably fall through the cracks. There's going to be a lot of people that fall through the cracks and not get what they're entitled to. So it's important that you do it. And the calculations, I hate to put this out there, but if the calculations are done correctly, you've got multiple ex-spouses or whatever the case may be. One calculation is done before the other calculation is done. So I'm not exactly sure how they're doing the automation calculation on this. I'm seeing that they're pretty accurate. But I think a lot of people are going to be wondering whether they got the right amount of benefits. And remember, for those people, those 3% of federal, state, city workers, government workers that did not pay into the Social Security, in their primary jobs, you have always been entitled to Medicare. It's called a MQGE, Medicare Qualified Government Employee. So even though in your main job as a firefighter or police officer or teacher or wherever the case may be, or state attorney or whatever, you did not pay into Social Security. The Social Security part of FICA, you always paid into the Medicare part of FICA. So your government agency decided to opt out of Social Security, but none of them opted out of Medicare. So you were always entitled to Medicare. There's a lot of people that miss that, and then they lose Medicare. So if you didn't get a check and you know you're entitled to it, you have to give Social Security a few more weeks to go ahead and do all the final calculations. But if you don't, then you definitely need to start getting on the phone in May and calling them up. Okay, so what about the rest of the people that are watching this and saying, "Hey, Ed, what are you talking about? Where's my money?" So basically and here is why I think this whole thing is unfair, that the other 97% should receive a higher percentage as well. Basically, what a lot of people don't understand is Social Security calculations. This has been a reality since 1935. The more money you make throughout your life, the lower percentage your Social Security benefit is to replace those lost wages. That's what Social Security is, to replace lost wages, FDR. So make more money, lower percentage. Make less money, higher percentage. So this is basically how it works. So if your average earnings throughout your life is $1,000 a month, you receive 90%. So you're going to receive a $900 check. If your average earnings throughout your life is $1,000 per month, you're going to receive a 90%. So $900 check. If your average earnings throughout your life is $10,000 a month, you're going to get $3,500. So 35% replacement rate. So, and this has been essentially the reality since 1935. Not these calculations, but higher wage earners has always received a lower percentage. So the average check is about $1,900. So we're talking the average person in Social Security, they earned about $3,900 per month on average. So they get 50% replacement, so that equals about $1,900. Okay, so let's say you have a firefighter, police officer, teacher in that paid into Social Security all their life, and their average earnings were $39.55. So they get 50%. But then you have these 3% in Texas and Ohio and California, Nevada, and whoever that has exactly the same $39.50 average earnings throughout their life. But because of now this windfall elimination provision is no longer there, they're not going to get 50%. They're going to get 60%, 70%, 80%, 90% of what they paid into Social Security. So they get a higher percentage. And they always say, why are you picking on teachers and firefighters? No, the other 97% of teachers and firefighters, why are they not getting 60%, 70% return on their the replacement rate? Why are they not receiving 80% like you might be, 70% like you might be? So that's unfair. That's why the Social Security Fairness Act is 100% unfair. And I disagreed with Biden when he said it was expand Social Security. It does nothing to expand Social Security. This is going to hurt everybody because you got $14 billion. Where's that $14 billion come out of? Comes out of the Social Security Trust Fund. And so the Social Security Trust Fund is going to be depleted sooner. Right now, according to the last Social Security Trustees report, we're looking at about a 21% cut in 2034. That is before this money went out, these billions of dollars that have gone out. So we're probably talking about a 22, 23, 24% cut a year, or maybe about 6 months or about a year earlier, because this is going to hurt everybody, unfortunately. So what they should have done, again, the first in 1980s, when they passed the windfall elimination provision of the government pension offset, yes, the calculations were bad, and now they're worse. What they should have done is they should have just taken all the non-covered earnings and said, hey, if your earnings, you're a Texas teacher, if your earnings throughout your life are $39.50, we're going to give you a 50% replacement, like every other teacher in America. A police officer in Houston, if your earnings throughout your life are $39.50, we're going to give you 50% like everybody else. Done. End of story. Period. And then, for the past however many years, we should have given you 50% last year and 50% 2 years ago and 5 years ago since the last year. We'll return that money now. They could have done that. They could have done it correctly. But going forward, two wrongs, I guess, now make a right. But anyway, I've kind of lost that battle because the Social Security Fairness Act passed, and now 97% of people are not going to receive. Yeah. So anyway. There's that. All right, let's get into some questions, specific questions, and see what we can do to help you all get your benefits. Okay, received a letter from Social Security regarding an overpayment. I've been on a payment plan for several years, but now they're taking 10% of the balance from my bank account. What happened to the payment plan? Yeah, you need to contact them. Once you set up a payment arrangement like that, yeah, they really shouldn't be changing it. So you should contact them. They recently Doge, who's in charge of Social Security now, Doge switched it from 10% to 100%. So you're lucky they didn't switch it to 100%. But I would definitely reach out to them and say, hey, we've had a deal and we've had an arrangement, and I can't afford 10%. That's why we made a deal, to negotiate a smaller percentage. So I'd definitely reach out to them, and yeah, definitely check that out. That's not correct. That's not right. Tony, I worked in New York State and paid taxes till I was 50, moved to Nevada, became a teacher. When I retired, my Social Security benefits were reduced. They're not reduced. You just didn't get the extra benefit, the extra percentage, as I was just discussing. Why wasn't it deposited? Can't contact Social Security, wrote my congressman. Yeah, again, you have to give them till the end of April. They're still processing the automatic ones. So they're going to unwep your PIA, your primary insurance amount. So yeah, you just have to give them a little bit of time to process it. But if you don't receive it by May, definitely reach out to them. Since Musk is out of the Social Security system, who is doing what with the system? As an ex-software developer, it's going to take a long time to create a new system on a new platform with all the rules. Yes, they don't understand. They look at the Fortran, COBOL, basic MCS, MISIC system that I've used a million times every single day for decades. But they don't realize that Social Security has begged Congress for decades. We need to update the system. We need to update the system. And Congress has refused every single time. So Social Security says, but we got to do something. So they've been, putting, lipstick on this pig for decades. And now there's the basic system, and there's this little extra, program. There's this extra one on here, and there's extra one on there. So there's hundreds of different ones. So if you go in there and start pulling that thread, like pulling a thread in a sweater, you pull one little thread and it all unwinds. And that is what it keeps me awake at night, is some of these kids going in there and pushing that thing. And yeah, please help. I applied to Social Security in 2020, local in Buffalo. I have still not been helped. In 2020, that's been 4 years. Something is definitely lost. Something is definitely lost. You need to contact your congressman. If you've submitted anything in 2020, unless it's, even then, the administrative law judge, if you're filing for a disability or something like that, then it does take a year, 2 years, or 3 years, but it shouldn't take 4 years. And I know in that area, it doesn't take that. Yeah, there's the oldest cases there were about 600 days. So yeah, you need to contact the office, contact your congressperson. So Bunny, that is not an easy job. They need programmers that know COBOL and people that know Oracle, two completely different platforms. They need a bus system analyst to document all rules. And so programmers know, yeah, they think they just go in there and, rule the world. And they've got, what's the guy's moniker? They've got big balls. Anyway. All right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Someone sent me an email about that. Someone that knows a lot more about that. He says it's like changing a verb to a noun, or a noun to a verb, what they're trying to do. And you can't do that easily, so. Lori, you don't know what people think. Please don't comment on anyone else's behalf. It's Ed. Okay. So someone's okay. Let's see. If I'm turning 65 next and I want Medicare to start in July, will they just bill me for July and then take out my payment in August when I receive the first check? Okay. So it depends whether you're currently receiving Social Security benefits. If you're currently receiving Social Security benefits about 100 days before you turn 65, Medicare will send you your package in the mail with your Part A and your Part B and all that kind of good stuff. They'll sign you up automatically. And then a month before your 65th birthday, they will start taking out your Medicare Part B, the $185. So if you're not already receiving Social Security benefits, then you manually have to file for Medicare if you want Medicare to start. So you can choose all kinds of different things. At 65, you can choose to go ahead and sign up for Part A only. You can sign up for Part A and Part B You can refuse it completely, but remember, you have a penalty if you don't have creditable coverage. So if you are currently working, current work, yours or your spouse's current work, you have health insurance from current work, and your employer has at least 20 or more employees, then you don't have to sign up for Part B if you don't want. You don't have to pay the $185. You don't have to sign up for Part A or anything. But if you want it, then yeah, you have to go ahead and get it to avoid the penalties. And then you can reach out to the sponsor of our live Q&A chapter, Medicare. They can help you find, because you have to, Part A and Part B is great, but there's a lot of gaps there, a lot of financial gaps. The big one is Part B Medicare gap, the 20% co-insurance that you have to pay. So look for a Medicare supplement plan. Always, 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 anytime you're getting ready to sign up for a Medicare plan, doesn't matter who you talk to, always say, okay, tell me about Medicare supplement plans first. What's the difference between a Plan N and a Plan G and all that kind of stuff? Okay, what's the difference between a Medicare supplement and a Medicare Advantage? But always start with a Medicare supplement plan. And if it's not right for you, then it's not right for you. Then, yeah. So yes, if you are not receiving benefits and you sign up for Medicare, yes, they will bill you. If you are receiving benefits, then they'll just take it out of your Social Security check. So I've heard that the retro pay for GPO repeal only go back 6 months, not 1 year. Is this correct? No. If you look at the HR 82, which is the law that was actually signed and passed, typical Congress, it's 2 sentences. It just says, repealed, and Social Security has to figure it out. So yeah, it doesn't differentiate between, and it says going back to January 2024. If you read, it'll take you 30 seconds to read the law. Yeah. Congress. So what about people that get survivor benefits and SSI? Do we lose our money? I am scared to death I'm going to lose my money because I'm disabled. No, as of right now, you're going to continue receiving checks. You're receiving survivor benefits. If you're on SSI, that's the welfare-based program. If you get any, low income, low resources, if something changes with your resources, if you mean actual SSI, then you need to make sure you notify Social Security. But yeah, unless something happens with the computer system, because Doge, they can help or they can hurt. But one thing they can't do is change people's benefit amount. Elon Musk said, I'm going to give you all more money. Unless he gives it to you himself, he has no authority to do that. Congress is the only one that can change your benefit amount. But the people in the computer system can certainly mess it up. My judge died after my SSI disability hearing, and took a other judge signed off my SSI disability. Oh, wow. So, but sounds like it was, so the new judge adopted the previous judge's decision and just went ahead with it. So it sounds like, okay. I'm still waiting on the phone for hours out of nowhere, just hanging up. Will I still get my check in May? Yeah, as of right now, I don't see anybody that is not getting their checks. So we're good on that. The deadline, that was yesterday, the April 14th, that people had to go down to the Social Security office when they were going to file a new claim or whatever the case may be. They've done away with that. They made the change. They didn't make the change. They made it. They didn't make it. And so, yeah, they kind of don't know what they're doing. So, okay, not covering important info. Okay, let's see. Important to who? I want to file for Social Security, but on my wife's account. She passed away 9 years ago. I want to stay on hers until I reach my full retirement age. Is this allowed? 100% yes. And depending on the situation, that is a very, very good strategy. So you collect surviving spouse benefits. You can start surviving spouse benefits as early as 60 years old. And then you don't touch yours, and yours continues to increase until you hit your full retirement age. And after, your benefits on your own record will continue to increase until the month you turn 70 years old. So you go ahead and collect surviving spouse benefits, and then, you just check on your own every now and then. And when it's more or you want to switch, then you just go ahead and switch. Yep. Very, very good strategy. When I turn 66 in August, I retire. Okay. Okay, I already answered that one. Welcome everyone. Remember to tap the like button and share this channel along. Yes, please. Thank you very much. Teach all these algorithms that this is important information. Captured by Grace asks, you are by far the only channel I watch because, oh wow, God, you come with the truth, not to mention that you know everything about Social Security. I'm not about everything, but haven't been stumped yet. But knock on wood. Honestly, Dr. Weir, I still don't know what's going on, even with your help. So I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to go sit and wait. Yes. Well, that is, in some respects, well, I wouldn't sit and wait. I request you do one thing. Reach out to your politicians, which I know you already have, Heidi. Reach out to your politicians and say, hey, this is unacceptable. Wherever it is. Yes, that is unacceptable. The fact that everybody's going to get cuts to their Social Security checks in the future. And Congress has had 30 years to fix this, 40 years to fix this since the 1980s. They knew this was coming, that wages for everybody have been stagnant for decades, and therefore, where does Social Security get their money for FICA? Is people's wages. When people don't make that much money, Social Security suffers. The rich people, don't have to pay into Social Security like the rest of us. But yeah, contact your politicians and say, this needs to be fixed. I'm on SSDI since 2011 and want to start a GoFundMe for done legal fees. Will that affect my benefits? For SSDI, not at all. Zero effect on that. So you're good. Hopefully you get taken care of. When are those checks go hit individuals' account, the USA? 2.3 million have already hit. So, okay, so that same question there. 60, turning 62, beginning of August. Also a disabled vet. Do I apply for SSDI or just my retirement because my job will discontinue my supplement at 62? Okay, let's see here. You retired at 60. You're turning 62 in August. You're also a disabled vet. So I would apply. You can apply for both. It's called a RIB-DIB, RIB, retirement insurance benefits, and DIB, disability insurance benefits. You can apply for both. And so you're already a disabled vet, but that doesn't necessarily, that's not a slam dunk in terms of Social Security disability. Social Security disability is different than VA disability. In my office, we had a lot of vets that were receiving disability benefits, but they were working. So therefore, Social Security determined that they're not disabled. But if your disability keeps you from working, but it sounds like you have a job, so it doesn't sound like that's the case. But if your disability keeps you from working and your disability lasts for 12 months or longer, then I would file for disability. But in your case, because you say you have a job, then if you decide to cut back your earnings, you can go ahead and file for retirement benefits, and your VA disability does not affect your Social Security retirement benefits at all. If you get Social Security disability, your veteran's disability does not affect your Social Security disability at all. But so if you file at 62, remember your early retirement, so you're limited to the amount of money you can make. This year, it's the $23,400. So, and why would somebody file for retirement and disability at the same time? Because let's say you're 62, unable to work. So you go ahead and file for SSDI, Social Security disability insurance. And it's always taken a long time, but now it's even worse because there's no Social Security employees, unfortunately, being cut back drastically. So it's going to take you months and months and months to get a decision on your disability. And a lot of people can't wait months and months and months for a check. So if you're 62 or 63 or 64, then you file for disability. And while you're waiting for your disability to be decided, start your Social Security retirement benefits. So at least you've got a check coming in. And once your disability is approved, then they might adjust it based on your early retirement, but it depends on when they determine you became disabled. So now my check is $185 less in June. So it sounds like your Medicare Part B started. So you need to call up a chapter or whoever and start talking about either a Medicare supplement plan, the N or the G or the Medicare Advantage and your prescription drug plan and all that. So WEP was unfair. I agree. And I will allow the Fairness Act may be unfair. So make it fair. As a member of the 3%, I'd be happy for a fair solution. In the meantime, I'm okay with not getting an unfair cut. All right. Yeah. At least you're honest about it. So yeah, there's so many people. Thank you, Robin, for, realizing a lot of people argue and they say, oh yeah, you're just, whatever. And they don't know about the different percentages and the average index monthly earnings and the PIA and the extra the percentage. But you do, and you realize, hey, I'll still take it. So thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. They work for a federal agency, are subject to federal employment laws, and receive many of the same benefits as other federal workers. Okay, not sure. There's possibly a response to somebody else. Yeah, BS, not on what he's saying. They didn't take out taxes, what he had a retirement plan. Now they get extra money. Yeah. So the people, to be fair, the people, the teachers, firefighters, police officers that worked in these non-covered employment places, they did pay into Social Security, just not at those jobs that they worked at. They worked at other jobs that they paid into Social Security. That's why they are eligible to receive Social Security benefits. But they're going to get a higher percentage in most cases. So worked for the county at Indigent Hospital for 8.5 years. Does that count? It depends, Gabriel. If you paid into Social Security during that entire time, then none of this mattered. None of this is relevant to you. But if you didn't, and now you're receiving a pension from that non-covered employment, that means that employer was not paying into Social Security, then this does apply to you. So thanks, Ed. What is the difference between designated representative and designated payee, and what form do I need to fill out? So yeah, this is a new thing that was added within the last year or so. So when you file for benefits that asks you for kind of a designated person in the future, if something should happen to you that you're, not able to talk or, get in a coma or something like that. So Social Security has someone on the record they can reach out to and try to address it. That's different than a designated a payee representative. A payee representative is, someone right now that is unable to take care of their own benefits. And so therefore someone else jumps in and is the representative payee. So that person, so you've got the person that is unable to take care of their own benefits, someone else jumps in. So this person over here is appointed the representative payee, and they're ultimately responsible to make sure that money goes for the welfare of this person. So that person will receive like a payee report once a year, and it'll says, hey, we gave you last year $25,000 for that person. What did you do with it? And so this person is able to call Social Security and speak on behalf of the other person. So that's something that happens, with this month's check. The other one is kind of a future thing, which I think was a good thing Social Security added about a year or so ago as part of the claims process. So what about working for Boeing Aerospace? Do they get this extra benefit? No, because in Boeing, you paid into Social Security. So none of this, unfortunately, applies. You should get a higher percentage like these other 3%. If they want to make the Social Security Fairness Act fair to everybody, then yes, you should receive a higher percentage. I'm sure you would like an extra few $100s in your check every month, but unfortunately, yeah. If you don't get a Social Security check now, is the increase going to be in Social Security when you start receiving it in the future? Yeah, if you're entitled to any benefits and you were working for non-covered employment, then that WEP and GPO calculation no longer applies to you. So let's see here. I worked for Erie County, Buffalo, New York for 9 years from 77 to 86. Will I qualify for additional money? Again, if you paid into Social Security? No. If you didn't, and now you're receiving a Social Security check, then possibly. Yeah. Let's see. All right. There's someone says, take and took. Hey, what's up? There's a troll pushing Bitcoin. Okay. If I see him, I will, yes, I will. Yeah. Why are you always lying? I don't know. I am Brad Pitt's twin brother. Why do you think I'm lying? VA healthcare employees are eligible for pensions through the Federal Employees Retirement System, which I bet is good. Yeah, so the FERS, they pay into Social Security. That's the new system that was started in the 1980s. That's a system I was part of when I worked for Social Security, even when I was in the military. But so they paid into Social Security since the 1980s. Before that, it was a civil service retirement system, and that's the system that didn't pay into Social Security. So most of those employees are already retired. So my mother received her check 2 weeks ago for over $20,000. Her monthly went from $200 to $1,650. So there you go. So the person that said I was lying, Lorac is lying too about her mother. So with that amount of increase, that is a GPO. I'm almost certain that's a GPO. So your mother's worked for, okay, I'm putting 2 to 2 together here. Your mother worked as a teacher, firefighter, or police officer, whatever the case may be, and worked in a government employment that did not pay into Social Security. She receives a pension, and 2/3 of that pension offset what she received from a spouse. And now there is no such thing as the government pension offset effective January of 2024. So they took that 2/3 offset off, and now she gets, more than 97% of people out there because she gets both. And so other 97% didn't receive that $20,000 check. So there, I'm sure she'd appreciate it. The other 97% would like to have that, but that's the law. How would a person know if they qualify for these funds? That, again, if you worked for a non-covered entity, you didn't pay, you worked for some government agency that didn't pay into Social Security, or you were married, like this person right there, she didn't get it off her own, she got it off of a spouse. But in her case, it was a little bit different. It was offset. It was a GPO. But if you were ever married to someone, I know it's confusing. If you were ever married to someone and you think that person worked in one of these non-covered worked for the government, federal, state, local government in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, and you contacted Social Security before and you were told that you're not able to get benefits because your benefits are, not less than half of that other person's, maybe that person's benefit amount has now been recalculated and now you're eligible. So I bet you here's another thing that people are going to fall through the cracks, is that, because I know how the computer system works at Social Security. Elon Musk doesn't, because he keeps talking about these 20 million deceased people. But anyway, the people, so you've got a surviving divorced spouse, and the deceased spouse worked and had a reduced benefit amount, a recalculated benefit amount, and that person passed. And the computer system, I'm sure, is not going to go in there and recalculate it because the person is deceased. But the surviving spouse could very well get more benefits. But I think that's another one that people are going to miss benefits on. So on survivor benefits will be 67 in May. If I cash in a life insurance policy, do I have to claim as income? I'm going to write that one down on the deceased, but because I'm almost sure nobody at Social Security thought about that particular case. And I'm going to reach out. I reach out to Elon Musk and Doge and all those people on a regular basis, and nobody responds. So PIA recalculated. Okay, I'll make a note of that, and so nobody listens. But anyway, y'all do. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. On survivor benefits will be 67 in May. If I cash in a life insurance policy, do I have to claim as income? Nope. Nope. That is not earned income because you're receiving survivor benefits. So you're good. John Boy Bitcoin promoter. Okay. If I see him, was it John Doe? Okay, if I see him, I'll kick him off here. I'm 65. My business has taken a big hit. I have an S corporation. I pay myself a salary. If I was to take my SS benefits early, what do they look at for my wages, my W-2 or my net income for business? Both. If you have a W-2 and net income from business, they look at both. So in terms of the annual earnings limit. So as long as you're under the 23,400, you're good. The year you reach your full retirement age, then, the month you hit your full retirement age, then you can make $1 billion a month. It doesn't matter anymore. But in terms of the earnings limit, they look at W-2 and their net income from business so. If someone drops their Medicare a few years back and now want to get it back, is there a penalty? It depends if you drop that Medicare because you had other creditable coverage from your work, your spouse's work, 20 or more employees. If not, then yes. And if you don't have a special enrollment period because of that, you're out of luck, unfortunately, until January. Because we just finished the general enrollment period for signing up for Part B. So if you did not have creditable coverage, then you're going to get penalized, and you can't sign up for Part B until January, February, or March of next year. You just missed it. But you can call a chapter, whoever you want, and a chapter that can help you out and see if whether you have creditable coverage and see if they can do anything. I'm a teacher. I paid into Social Security for 40 quarters, so I expect all my earned income, along with my teacher retired funds, to do otherwise is highway robbery. Thank you, President Biden. But I expect you expect to get a higher percentage than all the other teachers in the country? Why should you get a higher percentage than all the extra people in the country? Yeah. Question. January 2024, I spoke with Social Security phone about an overpayment that wasn't my fault. He agreed and said it was less than $1,000. I wouldn't need to repay it. Now I get a letter saying to pay. Yeah, the person didn't input it in the system correctly. So yeah, usually they can do, for something like that, if it's under $1,000, they should be able to waive it. But if a local office decides to do that, then they have to send it up to the regional processing center. And sometimes, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes the regional processing center says, yeah, no, person still has to pay it. So at least, $10 a month, $5 a month or something like that. So if the money actually went into your account and you have that $1,000, then, they're going to try to get it back. If you're able to do it. If you're not able to do it, you paid it. You got that $1,000, and so now you got food in the house for the rest of the month, and that's it. Then they'll definitely waive it. So, but if you've got at least something, an extra $10, then yeah, you'll have to pay it back. But the person did say they were going to waive it, so I'm not sure what So I'd call them up and say, hey, you said you were going to waive it, and try to keep them to their word. But if for some reason they can't, then there's that. Please support Dr. Weir's valuable work and thank him for his free resource. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Social Security never deducted the $185 period because Florida stopped paying for it, and I was not notified. Oh, so you had the Medicare Savings Program, so that's a good thing. That if you know anybody that is having a hard time paying that Medicare Part B premium, the $185, tell them apply for Medicaid through the state, and then Medicaid might pay the $185, and that make their life a little bit easier with extra $185 a month. That's what Spitfire Red had through Florida. But then one day Florida decided not to pay that anymore, didn't tell Spitfire, and yeah. So usually what they do is if the state doesn't pay through that Medicare savings program through Medicaid, if they stop paying it, then they just start taking the $185 out of your check. But if you're not receiving a check, or it's not 108, you don't have $185 that you're receiving, then yeah, they're supposed to send you a thing that says, hey, you need to start paying us $185. I would reach out to Chapter and see if they can look, because they've also got access to the Medicare system and they can see what's going on there and they can give you some pointers on your particular case. So yeah, hopefully you get it back. When turned 65, the Part B is automatically enrolled at Puerto Rico person. Yeah, if you're eligible for Medicare, yep, it's automatic. You can deny it. So if you're receiving Social Security benefits and you're approaching 65 years old, or you're on disability and you're approaching the 24th month of being on disability, Medicare signs you up for it automatically. If you want it, you keep it. Then you look for another Medicare plan, Medicare supplement, Medicare Advantage, prescription drug plan, and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't want it, then you refuse it. But remember, you'll get penalized if you don't have other creditable coverage. And that is health insurance through current work, yours or your spouse's, employer, 20 or more, and all that kind of stuff. So, Ed, I'm kind of late tuning in today because of WEP and GPO offset. Do you think it's unfair that some government employees' spouses are not eligible for Social Security when they weren't in the past? They are not eligible for Social Security when they weren't not eligible and still not eligible. I think you mean, spouses, government employee spouses. So yeah, there's no more of the 2/3 offset. The other 97% of people get offset. The other 97% of spouses, their benefits from their spouse get offset based on their full PIAs. So they get offset, but you're not going to get offset. So that's completely unfair if you ask anybody. Okay. Do I have to have a death certificate to apply for ex-wife married 22 years survivor benefits? Usually not. If the person was a person passed away in the United States, then their death has already been notified and everything. If there is an issue, whether you were married to the person at the time or something like that, sometimes a death certificate has your name on there, so they can use that. But with any Social Security benefits, anytime you're looking to file a claim, particularly now with Social Security, the staffing being so terrible, it would, even before Doge came in, it was at a 50-year low in terms of staffing. So terrible customer service, and politicians wanted customer service to be terrible. That's why they built it like that. But now it's even 10 times worse. But never, 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 never wait for documents to contact Social Security. If you want to file for survivor benefits, call Social Security, set up an appointment. And then if you think you need a marriage certificate, a divorce decree, or a death certificate or whatever, start looking for that. But don't wait. Call Social Security, because if you wait and say, well, I'll call them up next month when I get my documents, you just lost a month. You just lost a month of money. So why throw money away? So Heidi, tried to make your appointment with Dr. Ed, but no availability. Tried to 2026. I'm stopped doing I finally found someone to help. I would just, because I am kind of semi-retired. Mai Jackson, who's got a phenomenal amount of experience. She used to, when Congress people in her state needed help with Social Security, that's who they called with her. So she knows everything and then some about all things Social Security. So she is doing the one-on-one consultations calls. So you can schedule an appointment with her, and she'll be able to answer everything. So yeah. So I can make these videos and keep up and harass our politicians on a regular basis. I have supplemental F. Is it worth it? What would be a good substitute? Yeah, F is the gold standard. There are 6 gaps in original Medicare Part A and Part B. There are 6 financial gaps. Plan F, supplemental Medicare supplement Plan F, fills all 6 of those. Plan G, the only one it doesn't is the Part D deductible, the $257, the annual deductible, but it covers the other 5. But the problem with Plan F is it depends if your prices for Plan F are continuously going up, then you might want to bail, because nobody can sign up for Plan F basically anymore unless you're very aged. So Plan F is not really available right now. So the pool of people with Plan F are getting older and sicker. So prices for Plan F are, for some people, depends on how they bought it, are going through the roof. So if that's you, you might want to see if you can bail ship and go to a G or an N or something like that and save yourself some money. But if not, then yeah, you might be stuck, unfortunately. But you can call chapter and see. And if you have a Plan G now, there's the annual enrollment period and the open enrollment period for Medicare. But there's also, if you have a Medicare supplement plan, you can change those any time of the year. If you have a G plan, you can see if you can find a cheaper G plan. If you have an N plan and want to go to a G plan, or if you have a G plan, want to go to a cheaper N plan, or whatever the case may be, depending on your state, you might have to answer some questions in terms of health underwriting. But if you're good, if you pass that health underwriting, and it's basically what you do is you call chapter and says, hey, I'm on a G. Can I save any money? Is there anything cheaper? And they'll look and see if there's anything cheaper in your state. And then they'll say, oh yeah, here's one that's $40 a month cheaper. But in our particular state, I have to ask you these 30 questions, and have you had a heart attack in the last year, and do you have cancer, and a bunch of questions. You don't have to take a physical or anything like that. They just ask you a bunch of questions. And some people say, well, I have had a heart attack, but it was like 3 years ago. Some companies don't have a 3-year look back. And some of them, says, hey, was it within the last year? No, it wasn't. Okay. All right. This company, then you're good. This other company, no. And chapter knows all of the ins and outs of which companies are a little bit easier and stuff like that. So, Karen, I've been flagged as qualifying to receive a 2024 back pay and monthly adjustment to my payment on the Social Security Fairness Act. Any info on when they will process the last claims? Yeah, if you've already been flagged in that particular case, you should be part of this next run. So you probably get your check within the next couple of 3 weeks. But if not, then definitely reach out to them. But if you've already been flagged, then that means they've got all the information they need to process the check. It's the people that are going to take some manual calculations that are going to take a while. So what about military service? Do they get any of the Fairness Act? Normally, no, unless you served in the military a long, long time ago, before the 1980s, and didn't pay into Social Security. But normally, no, because you'd also be having to get a pension. But I haven't heard of a military retiree as part of the windfall elimination provision. So. Will they just deposit the Fairness Act in the account? I am a divorced spouse from a fireman who is eligible for it. Please answer me. I really need you $700 a month. Okay, Beatrice. So if you were married to a fireman, and where that person was a firefighter, if he did not pay into Social Security at that particular job, then his benefit amount is going to be increased. So if you are already on his record, then it should be automatic because you're already on his record. If you're not, because when you filed, they said, yeah, his benefit amount is not high enough, and so you didn't file, then you need to reach out to Social Security and say, hey, my husband was a firefighter. Ask it like this. My husband was a firefighter. Is he going to be unwept? And they will look at the record and say whether he's already been unwept. So his benefit amount is now this amount. It was this amount. Now it's this amount. And you're like, okay, well, now am I eligible for benefits on his record? And they'll look at yours. And if it's $700 a month or whatever the case may be, then if there's more money there, then they will schedule an appointment and you go get that money. And if you're only making $700 a month, make sure you watch my video I did. I've done a few versions of them, but watch the one I did. It's called Living on Social Security Alone. Just look for that title. I've got like 1,000 videos I've done, but look for the one that says living on Social Security alone. And I go through like 50 different programs that might help you out, might make your life a little bit easier. So work for the city of Tampa, 70 to 72, no Social Security was paid by the city. Am I qualified under the Fairness Act? Are you receiving a pension from that? If you only worked here for a couple of years, you're probably not receiving a pension from that. And therefore, that's how the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset was calculated based on your pension. So if you're receiving a pension and you told Social Security about that pension, then just might get more money. If you're not, then no. Are we getting a raise on SSDI, SSI, and SS? And if you're on SSDI and you get to the age of 60, 62, does your SSDI change to straight Social Security? Okay, lots of question there, Lori. What's up? Are we getting a raise? No, not COLA next year, but as of right now, there is no, if you're not part of the Social Security Fairness Act, no. The whole Doge dividend, I talked about that. That's not going to happen. COLA next year. Okay, second, third, fifth part of your question is if you're on Social Security disability insurance and you're approaching 60, 62, no, nothing happens. Once you hit your full retirement age, your SSDI switches to regular retirement benefits. Most people don't even know the switch. It's just a bureaucratic thing. They stop taking your money out of the Social Security Trust Fund and start taking out of the Retirement Trust Fund. However, okay, this will be the last. We're over an hour, so this will be the last answer. So if you're on SSDI and you reach 60 years old, so there's a few ages you need to check out here. If you're on Social Security disability insurance and you reach 60 years old, check to see if you're entitled to any survivor benefits, because people that when they hit 60 are eligible for survivor benefits. So if you were married to anybody that passed away, divorced spouse, current spouse, whatever, check to see if you're entitled to any survivor benefits. And then when you hit 62, check to see if you're entitled to any divorced spouse benefits or current spouse benefits or independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. And then when you're 65, that's when you check to see, in most states, if you're on disability under 65, all you can get is a Medicare Advantage. But when you hit 65, you can get whatever you want. So at 65, check to see if your Medicare supplement is best for you. No prior authorizations, no networks. And if it's not for you, it's not for you, but at least you check it out when you have the ability. And then again, when you hit your full retirement age, you're no longer in disability, no more CDRs, the continuing disability reviews, no more work limitations. You're just on regular old retirement benefits after your full retirement age, and you do whatever you want. You can go out there and work, and it doesn't matter. All right. Someone asked, how does Chapter make their money? Just like everybody else that helps you sign up for Medicare. Everybody exactly the same. They give you all your options, tell you which ones based on your doctors and your budget and your prescriptions and what you need. And they look for the best plan in your particular area. And then you say, I want that one. And then just like everybody else in the country, just like every insurance, that insurance company pays them. So that's how they do it. So they don't care which one you pick. Whichever one is good for you is good for them. So, all right, that is it for today. And I apologize again for not getting to everybody, but Laura became a platinum member. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Support it. Oh, and we got someone donated $10. Thank you. My son and I appreciate it. 2-man operation here. So do I need to do anything to continue Social Security and Medicare when I reach my full retirement age? SSDI is since 2003. Look, I already answered your question. What I just told, I forget the previous lady's name, but anyway, yep, exactly what I just explained. So I got you ahead of time. All right, y'all have an awesome day, and please, 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 please take care of each other. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Ari from Chapter. Everybody liked when he was here last time, so we're going to talk about all the updates on Medicare tomorrow. And Dr. Oz, the new guy in charge of CMS, will talk about what he has planned for your Medicare going forward. And so if you got any Medicare questions, make sure you join us tomorrow. Y'all take care. Have an awesome, awesome day. And please, please, please take care of each other.